Happy Thursday, everybody. I'm Jade Scott. This is GrowthRx, and today I'm joined with the amazing Lance Piccione from Love Me, Love You Foundation. How are you, Lance? Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Jade, and honour is all mine. Very excited about this.
Look, Lance, to give you an intro that gives you some, I guess, some justification, some credibility why we are so excited to have you talk to us today. Not only are you the founder of Love Me, Love You since 2019, but you are certainly a dedicated leader and mental health ambassador. And through your journey as an ex-AFL footballer, which was really successful in its own right, you've gone on to help over 80,000 people now in this particular space, just sharing what your journey was and turning it into a passion that has helped so many other people. But before we kind of extend on that, I'd love to intro you and get to know you a little bit better and introduce you to the community. So let's start with 3 lighthearted and yet hard-hitting questions to get to know you. Look, in COVID, you're here in Victoria with me. I'd love to know, in regards to keeping your morale and your spirits up, what are your favourite things to do right now in stage 4 lockdown?
Well, the favourite thing for me right now is really just getting into really rocking my routine. You know, I'm loving my gym work, I'm loving that sort of thing. I'm really sort of taking a great opportunity and spending more time with my family. You know, I've got a couple of young ones. I've got Alexander, who's nearly 5 years of age, and Lennox, who's about 2.5. And you know, being able to spend that much time with them, it's been an amazing opportunity for me, and I loved it. You know, because you know, we get caught up in being so busy in this world. You know, we take for granted sometimes the amazing things that are part of our life. And family time that's for me. And I've also, you know, taken to eating a bit more chocolate than I should be.
Yeah, haven't we all caked on
We
the
all
COVID kilos, I call it?
Yeah.
Okay, and so now your lovely wife, if I asked her what your worst habit was, what would she tell us it would be?
Not listening, probably. Thinking that I've said something and it hasn't been said. And, you know, just standard male things about leaving things around the house and not cleaning up after myself as much as I should be. And you know, being sometimes not being as present as I should be.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll start with that.
Yeah. And your superpower, what is it?
My superpower is that if it was a fake superpower, I'd love lightning speed. But my superpower I have, I believe, right now is that that I live every day. You know, and it's, you know, for me, it's taking it back. It's just being able to live every day and make sure it's an amazing experience as much as I possibly can.
Yeah. Look, you know, I guess being able to live your passion every day and be able to help people, I mean, that certainly is a superpower for many people, and I agree with that.
Yeah.
And what about the question I love to hate and hate to love? Crocs, the footwear. Are you down with it?
I believe that Crocs have caused a range of mental health issues for a lot of people, whether they're being from, you know, not belonging to a community or, you know, isolation that causes. And definitely not with it. Definitely nowhere near it. And I see the shops when I go past them, and I just sort of have to close my eyes when I see them in store.
Great answer. Now, look, I guess, you know, we're blessed to hear a little bit more about your journey today, and you're very well known for being really vulnerable and openly sharing your story, not only, I guess, as a form of therapy that has probably helped you along the way, but for reducing the stigma attached to mental health. And you've kind of turned from your career in the fitness industry for over about 10 years, and then obviously founding Love Me, Love You for, you know, what's now coming up to 8 years. This journey for you and where you are now certainly wasn't that way, you know, probably a decade ago. I'd love to know more about how you got to this place. And obviously you had to go through a lot to get to where you are now. And probably the best place to start, hopefully, if you're willing to share, would be that story and what allowed us to be learning so much from you and your role.
Yeah, no, we believe so much at Love Me, Love You around the power of storytelling and connecting to your story and understanding the whys and the hows and the emotional responses that have come through those experiences that you've dealt with and are dealing with at the current time. I've been through a whole range of issues, challenges through my mental illness, anxiety and depression through my early years in high school, and then obviously then escalating to something so much larger in depression in my early 20s, and dealing with that space is, for the period that was, this is sort of going on 15, 20 years ago, that the conversations or the understandings around mental illness and the challenges that come through, with our emotional state of mind is that it wasn't there, so it's really hard to sort of deal with something when you don't know what you're actually dealing with, and going through that period of time and being an AFL footballer and being an elite sports person for, a lot of my life, it got me into a real position of, because the culture around it is that you couldn't show weakness or you couldn't show the fact that you were dealing with whatever life was throwing at you. And going through that period of time, it became a real dark part of my life, and understanding at the same time of living through that dark part of my life that, I had amazing experiences as well. I had a beautiful family. My mum and dad and my sister and my brother, the most amazing people, to be connected to with my family. But, and I played, on the MCG in front of 70,000 people, and I was able to, live a dream of playing AFL. But, moving forward from that, there was always this sense of disconnection from the world and not feeling like I belonged. And, putting that into play for a lot of people, and that they would understand, a lot of people understand that feeling of disconnection from what their life's about. And going through that, then, you find those escapes in life, those harmful coping strategies that, they're harmful, but you do them because at the time they actually make you feel good, which becomes a real issue, because when you keep going with them, they become a normality. They become a normal part of your life. And when it becomes normal in terms of harming yourself, both emotionally and physically through your behaviours, that it's, there's a long way. It's a long road out, and dealing with that, post footy, hitting the substances like really hard, and pretty much daily usage for 6 to 7 years of my life, and which sort of got me to a point where I had numerous times that I thought about suicide and ending my life and walking away from this world. And but that's the journey that I had to understand, and acknowledge to myself that that's what it was, and these are the challenges that I went through. And I'm just able to get through, where I am, what I lived through, and what I do now is because I have an amazing support network, and I really invest in my people around me that that I care for and that care for me, and making that work allows me to do love me, love you every day, and I wake up every single day, with a spring in my step. It's because I love what we do at the foundation, and I love the ability for our programs and our support that enables people to own their journey, and it's we deal with a lot of devastation at the same time, and for me that causes a real issue sometimes, because having been in that devastating part of the world in terms of up here in my heart, that that can trigger a lot of emotions or past responses into that world, and but laying the very foundations of how I go about things and invest in who I am, every single day, every minute of every single day, allows me to make sure that we're all in this together, and I do love it. You said before, I mentioned my lovely wife. My lovely wife is the most amazing rock that I could ever ask for in my world, and it allows me to be who I am. And when we talk about personal relationships and that sort of stuff, is that empowerment process that that is what a good, strong relationship is all about, is empowering someone to be something that they are. Okay, and it's not trying to change them or not trying to say, okay, well, you should do this, but allowing that process in those relationships, it stands me in good stead every single day. And understanding that I have those days and the moments that that I don't want to have to deal with, and those daily stresses of life, but pushing it through to yourself, and make sure you're reflecting and taking ownership over those experiences allows you to make it work. It's I had some real dark moments of my life, but I've had the same thing, and keep saying that I've had amazing experiences in my life as well. which I'm very proud of. I'm very proud of the people that have been a part of that journey as well.
Yeah, look, thank you so much for sharing. It means a lot to us, and even just having you talk so openly about it and having done that for so many years, I'm sure it does give people the courage to be able to have a voice and to know that, that the stigma attached to showing vulnerability is not necessarily always, you don't always have to have that thick shell and that tough skin, and that this is a condition that affects everybody. And in allied health, we see injuries, we see people in physical pain all the time. This is not like walking around with a cast on your arm where people can see clearly what's going on. This is something that we can't see. And if people don't talk about it, then often we don't know.
Yeah.
And somebody like you who is brave and was in that position of authority, and you're a role model, and as you said, you weren't meant to be showing emotion and you weren't meant to show the cracks that were appearing. I think having this voice and having you step up and show up, I really do believe might help just one or two people. And I'm sure that's why you do what you do every day, is encourage people, and as you said, empower people to have a voice. So thank you so much for what you do.
Well, it's okay. Like as I said, Jay, I love what I do, and I understand why I had to go through that part of my life to do what I do today, and what we do at Love Me Love You Foundation, and all the other amazing mental health organisations doing amazing things. And putting it back to that power of storytelling and sharing these experiences is about normalising the behaviour around it. Okay, so both verbally and physically. That's it's not always about what we look out for. It's understanding what we're listening for. How people are talking, the tone of their voice. Looking out for those changes in behaviour, both verbally and physically, allows people to normalise that very behaviour around. Yeah, I'm going through some crap, and I'm going through these real challenges in my life, but we got this. But at the same time, when you talk about the support systems that are available to people, sometimes you can't support what you don't know needs being supported. It's and there's a normalising that very behaviour around the need for support and the ability to ask for help, or the ability to allow people in that want to help you, because that's what we're about. Life's about community and relationships, and we thrive off the very human energy that is between multiple people, and that's what we need. And as humans, we actually need that. When we start isolating ourselves or withdrawing ourselves from relationships or engagements or experiences, that takes an impact on our mental health and our very ability just to live. We talk about you bring it back through the allied health world. A lot of the actual injuries or a lot of things or ailments that you are dealing with is, a lot of them are actually linked to mental health challenges, because, the mindset and the capacity for the brain to process what's actually happening as a physical response. You need to be strong with that and acknowledging and aware of the fact of what's happening and putting yourself into a positive mindset, because, there's been research around the fact of working through physical injuries in terms of dealing with the mental side of that beforehand, and that it's shown to improve, and your recovery is so much quicker and better and longer lasting that if you actually deal with the mindset component that you need to deal with your physical injuries. And that goes same thing with the mental health, is that you need to be able to treat the cause, not the effect. And it's to be able to support the cause and understand and taking ownership of how did it happen, what did it come, why does it got to this certain point, and then make it work, and consistently investing in making it work for you. And you said whether it be through the allied health world, or mental health, is that you've got to, if you go see one of the team at your practice, that might see them for an hour a week or whatever it might be, but then there's the rest of the time of that week that they need to be doing what's going to make it work and actually make that treatment better. And it's the same thing in the psychology world, is that you go see a psychologist or psychiatrist and you see them for an hour a week. There's the rest of the week that you need to be investing and utilising those tools, to make it, make it stronger, to, make your mind stronger, make the body stronger, make the heart stronger. It's but it's forever evolving, and we need to keep investing ourselves and those around us to make it, a normal part of conversation, because there's more people in this world that are being affected by mental health challenges, not so much mental illness, but mental health challenges, and aren't getting the help and support they need. So that's the very idea of why we are an organisation, is that it allows that space for people to acknowledge the fact that we go through challenges every single day. Some deal with it a lot better than others, but you've got to keep investing and making it work. But you need to be able to allow yourself to be supported through that.
Absolutely. And look, it is an individual issue that most people face, but it's a community based issue. So many people, this is such an important conversation, and it's so hard to talk about this and even just have a conversation over an hour. I'd love to be able to do this topic justice, but more than anything, there are so many people that don't understand. And when you don't understand, I find you do one of two things. You don't know how to act, or you kind of put your head in the sand. But there are so many people out there that suffer in silence because they don't talk about it. And as practitioners, obviously, we've got our place. But as genuine, compassionate human beings, seeing people who are suffering, physically turning into mentally, or just mentally in itself, we all have a role to play in this, and I'm sure that you kind of agree. But I guess taking it back a step for people who've never been in that place, and I'm very fortunate that I've never suffered personally with mental health, but I know a lot of people who have. When you're in that moment and when you feel like you're alone and you don't have people to talk to, even though these people are so loved and have so many caring people around them, a lot of people suggest they feel like they're in a hole or a dark place they can't get themselves out of. Is it just the conversations that start? Like, if we go back to that point, where's the point that we start with these conversations?
Every day. And as I said, it's before these things happen. And this is where we need to get to, is that with these conversations need to be had before it escalates to that position. And as I said, around that, talking about normalising the fact of having these conversations, or understanding the very impact that it's having on people's lives. It comes through the whole education and training that it is, but it's a bit of common sense how do you attack it as well. To acknowledge to a person, creating a safe space, and we all need safe spaces to be a part of in this world, and that's where we actually perform better, where we feel safest. And trying to create a positive, a supportive and inclusive culture, in your own very home, or in your workplace, or socially, in your club, wherever you are. It's about creating those safe spaces that those people can have those conversations. You don't have to be a doctor or a professional to have a mental health conversation or a well-being conversation with the person that you care for. You just have to be a part of that conversation, and because you're not saying the wrong things. You just need to hear people out, and allow them that space to have those types of conversations. And there's a big thing we can talk about in a minute, but it's about every good conversation actually starts with listening. And in our world, we've become so disconnected from the very fact of how we actually converse with people, and in that space and in that relationship. And because of technology, technology has a big part to play in how people are communicating, or why they can't communicate. And allowing that to be acknowledged before it escalates to that position, as I said, will put our communities in much better positions moving forward, because we shouldn't have to wait for it to hit the fan before we've done something about it. It's not the reactive approach that we're trying to educate people on. It's trying to create a more proactive approach to having these conversations that we have every single day. And it's about looking and listening and being a part of it. And don't put your head in the sand, because you talk about this conversation around sympathy versus empathy as well. It's been as humans, we are very empathetic in how we go about it, but sometimes we get it mixed up, and we try to fix things for people.
Yeah.
And the really very approach around empathy is just about understanding it for people. And you don't have to be, as I said, you don't have to have the white jacket on to deal with conversations and people that are in your life, but you just have to be there. and allowing that space, as you said, to actually have people be a part of it and be a part of that journey, so that we can all work through what we're dealing with.
Yeah. And look, obviously there is different elements and different degrees of mental health. There is,
Yeah.
the clinical side of things, but there's also what we're experiencing right now,
Yep.
attached, traumatic induced situations where our safety, our security, our connections are tested and taken away. And COVID is certainly doing that now. I don't feel like myself sometimes. I'm such a positive, energetic person, and at times I feel flat and I don't feel like myself because I'm trying to be everything to everyone. We have to be seeing more of this now, and this is front and center. Everybody is suffering right now, whether it be the economic impact, the physical impact of not being able to do what we were able to do, go to our gyms, exercise, all those sorts of things. But just the monotonous grind of losing our relationships, our certainty and our connectivity is really having consequences. Do you know what's happening with these statistics right now? Are we not hearing about the statistics because they're being shrouded by COVID stats? Can you fill us in more on what you're seeing compared to where Love Me Love You dealt with last year? And I'm sure you saw all those statistics last year. What are those statistics looking like now? I mean, is suicide rate climbing?
Yeah, it's a tricky one to real-time data around this is not had, and there are reports that in the next few weeks that the more information will come about real-time data in terms of suicide and mental illness rates going through this COVID period. But the very feeling of disconnection, is multifaceted. Okay, so we talk about disconnection that we're having from human energy and relationships that people are, as I said, we thrive on, but we're not having those. Then it's also about disconnection from work, because a work is the workplace, and what we do for our living is a big part of our identity. And being disconnected from that part of your identity is creating a whole range of issues and challenges for a lot of people. Some people are, at the same time, a lot of people are actually coping with this really, really well, because I believe that we've being able to evolve with the system, evolve with the challenges of every day and understanding it. And this is about the awareness component, is that self-awareness of, okay, this is what I'm dealing with, but there is a path forward. There is a way that I can do this. Talk about that you said about the gym and the fitness components. If you can come up with it, you're going to come up with excuses, and a lot of people are going to have excuses for why they're not doing certain things. But you've got to find the reason. You've got to find the reason in the way that you can do it, because there's always opportunities to be able to do something. There's more than one way to skin a cat, as I say. So investing in those and creating opportunities for yourself and making it more of a diverse approach in our health and well-being. That because diversity attacks adversity, and we are all going through a range of adversity at this very moment. And as I said, but people are coping with it better because that's just what they're doing, and they're actually allowing that to happen. The biggest one that we're finding, and it is, it gets me up a little bit when people start talking about the increased rate of suicide that's happening over this last period of time. When people start reporting on data that is more modelling behaviour, all right, so more modelling data, we know on average in Australia that there's 3,000 on average suicides that happen in Australia every single year. Okay, globally, there's a person that dies from suicide every 40 seconds. They're talking about the impact that this period's happened and the stress that it's caused on people's identity and how they're going about it. There will be an increase in suicide rate, moving forward from the period we've had right now and through to the next, 3 to 5 years, purely on the fact that this 6 months of devastation that has caused to a lot of people's lives is going to set people back 5, 10, 20 years in terms of what we talk about financials, the materials, their visions, in your workplace. It's going to set a lot of people back, but there's always opportunities to move forward. And we look at when I say the opportunities to move forward is the understanding that people are there to support you. We just need to be able to say, I'm battling here. and I did a webinar yesterday with the team from NAB, and we're talking about the hardship that the people are facing financially. That the amount of people that they've helped through this current period of time and dealing with financial hardship is, in the tens of thousands. Yeah, and making that work and having people understand that there are support services available through health, well-being, um, jobs, financials. There's everything that can be supported. But sometimes we just need to acknowledge ourselves in the first place that, I do need some help. And having these conversations around it with the right people allows us to work through that system. The mental health challenges that we are seeing through our support pathway program, are all coming back to financial, so loss of jobs or change of jobs or reduced hours in the jobs, and relationship issues. Which coincides with sometimes, and a lot of the time, relationship issues are then caused because of excessive alcohol use. The percentage spike of alcohol consumption for what people would usually do is through the roof. People are drinking a lot more. People use those harmful coping strategies that we're all attaching ourselves to because it makes us feel good at the time, but we know that it genuinely, as a sustainable coping strategy, it doesn't work. And there's, the suicide rate, I've had to deal and connect with, at least 15 families connected to a suicide in this last 6 months. But that, for me, that is also a normal rate. I last year, we come into contact with 30, 40 people or families that had a suicide. We deal with hundreds of people every year in terms of the mental health challenges and able to support them through that process. There is a spike, but once we find out more data that comes through, it is a tricky one to understand for people because we're putting it out there, and suicide's reality, and it's happening more and more in our communities, and the ripple effect that has on our communities and families and friends, it's devastating to deal with. But we need to bring it back. We need to bring it back to the idea that we're all here in this together, and we can be supportive of anybody that comes into our lives. But we've got to allow that to be a part of it. So it's a challenging one to think about, but we'll find out more in the coming weeks.
And I think, as you said, that positive social change, those conversations, as business owners, as team members, opening up those lines of communication, creating those safe workplaces where people can talk about it. I mean, staff hours have been reduced. Our patient numbers have been reduced, and therefore the time that we spend at work, our teams coming and going, we're wearing masks, all of those sorts of things. Burnout is not just hard labor and patient numbers and hours spent. It can be the mental load that you're carrying as well, which triggers a lot of this. And I've certainly seen some, what you would consider, really, I guess, empathetic, powerful practitioners that are feeling the burden of just the ongoing nature of this. We're now a really good 6 months into it. And if you're in Victoria, it's becoming even more, the catalyst of mental health in short term becomes long-term burnout. Because if you are grinding away at this constantly, whether it be physically or mentally, what when it comes to burnout, what is the sort of stuff? I mean, we see this with the compassion fatigue. We're constantly investing in our patients. And, I always create the argument between empathy and putting yourself in somebody else's shoes, and compassion being the action of empathy, which is actually suffering with somebody else, feeling their pain, feeling what they're going through, and actually actioning it. Compassion sometimes as a practitioner can actually really fast track that burnout when you get to the end of the day. And as you were saying before, we're also connected right now. We're connected to our phones, to social media. We've got nothing else to do. So if you can't unplug then burnout becomes very, very real. And you see this as business owners who can't get away from responsibility right now. That's what I'm feeling, is this responsibility of having to care for your team and make these decisions. You know, what do you see, I guess, when it comes to burnout, which is a very different type of mental health, but very, very real?
Yeah, most definitely. And the emotional capacity of people's ability to be burnout is what we talk about. Is you see, keep taking all these things on that are happening in our life, and always caring for other people. And I always bring it back to you've got to be able to fill your own cup, because you cannot pour from an empty cup. And whatever those practices are, and however you disconnect from your day, compartmentalizing work to home to being able to put investment in here. It's really, really important, and it's extremely important. And we're seeing a lot of it with people that have gone, I need to work harder, or I need to push harder, I need to push harder. But as you said, the stress that plays on in your head creates, that burnout component. And I'm the same thing. Like, I have my moments where, like, a lot of things get on top of it, more myself in terms of not so much my workload, because, like, I love, and as you do, love I love pushing in 50, 60 hours a week of doing work, but I also disconnect from work and make sure that I've got here. And with me, the biggest one that we deal with in terms of burnout for me is, I present, last year, in the last year, I've presented probably something like close to 300 times in the last 12 months, through lives, workshops, a whole range of things, to, from kids as young as 6 to people in their 80s. And then taking all of those experiences on from those people as well, for me, can create burnout for a certain period of time. But because then people share with me, and I understand and I appreciate that. I love the fact that people share their experiences and share their stories and share their journey with me. But I also need to understand how I debrief, personally debrief just by myself, how I disconnect, how I take a lot. Okay, that's for the experience there. And then I've gone, bang, I've done what I can. I've done all I possibly can. How do I disconnect, and then so I can reconnect? And making it work. And that's where I bring it back to that self-awareness component, is that the more self-aware we are and how we go about every single experience, and because I'm so more mindful of every single experience, the more self-aware I can be, the better off I'll understand that changes in mood, those changes in my reaction, my emotional reaction, my physical reaction to every experience, and allowing myself and giving in myself permission to just to slow down for 10 minutes, to just take it back, get out of the workspace and go for a walk around the block, those sorts of things, and disconnect, and I meditate consistently. I'm in my garage right now, which is actually set up as a fully functional gym. I've got my bike trainer, all that sort of stuff. If I'm feeling moments of stress or feel like I'm freaking out a little bit, I'll just come in here, I'll pump out a little bit, and then I get back to it. But allowing yourself to be a part of that, and burnout, both physically and mentally, is something that we're forever evolving with and understanding of, and allowing ourselves that ability to slow down our process. Because, and I say to my oldest son, is that those that get frustrated and stressed never achieve, and they're the smallest of things. So the more we can slow down our process and just bring it back, the better off we're going to be, and the more productive you're going to be in whatever field that you're in.
And it is about that shift of mindset. I know myself personally, I'm part of that elite sleeper group. I only need about 5 hours sleep. I think I run off the energy that I can smell in the air. I've always been like that. But the reason why I work so hard is really for those 4 weeks a year that I get to go to a luxury resort and a hotel and spend with my family and dedicate to my children and unplug. And I missed those 4 weeks this year. COVID took my holidays away. They're taking everybody's holidays away. So we're spending a lot of time with our families, but it's certainly not quality time. And I'm at risk of that as well. That destination syndrome and chasing happiness, going, oh, I'll be able to relax when I have my holiday. I'll be able to relax when I go to Bali. I'll be able, I can go to Queensland in November and chill out. We don't have those holidays anymore. that so many people work hard for, what do I replace that with? I have to find that new thing that I work towards. And at the moment, until flights pick up and I can get back to somewhere sunny and sandy, even I feel like, what it is, I've got to stop chasing that and try and be happy in the moment, which is totally new for me. And that's what I'm finding now. People are tired because they don't have that holiday that they love to get excited for. What can we get excited about now?
The great opportunity of living every day. Yeah, and I'm trying not to fluff that out a bit, but it's the very process of going, yeah, those are the things you will look forward to, and they will come around again, and that is perfectly fine. And it might be a better holiday that you might be looking forward to. But bringing it back, because the opportunity to live every single day and get up out of bed every single day and being grateful for the fact that you can live every single day is an amazing experience, but it takes practice. It does take practice. It does take investment in how you go about it. As you said, and I do a lot of mindfulness, and I do a lot of meditation, and I do a lot of, just training and having me time. I love and I look forward to waking up at 4 o'clock most mornings of the week and coming into the garage for 2.5 hours and training. That for me is my little holiday. And I love it, and the feelings, the endorphins that release from all that sort of those experiences is the best thing for me, because I understand that's the best thing for me right now and my process to move forward for this next period of time. And I do look forward to my holiday in whenever we can take this, and sharing. And for those that know me, like I'm not really a camping outdoors sort of like that sort of guy, but I even started getting my head around the fact that maybe we can go on a big camping trip when we're allowed to. It's amazing where you sort of your mind gets to with that sort of thing and trying to think, oh, what can I do? But it's allowing yourself to bring it back, and family's king. And I know you have a beautiful family as well, Jade. And for me, as I said, it's spending so much time with them and engaging and being mindful and being present in your experiences every single day with that quality time that you have with each other is a great opportunity. Because the great opportunities that when we start back and having to be in the office for 10, 12 hours a day, those sorts of things, you're missing those experiences that are happening right now. And you start looking forward to the future, which is what we relate to in anxiety, okay, is that anxiety is about looking to the future too much about what's not actually happening, okay, and that stressful response that comes from looking forward to something that's not there, okay, and understanding the what is, not the what isn't. So as I said, just bringing it back, slow down your process. We will get through this, and there's many people that, are finding it really hard to deal with that we will get through this because, the forever evolving restrictions that are being placed on everybody. But it's allowing us to say, okay, well, this is what I've got to do. If I keep finding something that I can't do, bring it back to what can I do, and who can I do that with? And, if you're lucky enough to have a family in your house or people in your house or certain experiences that you can have with other people, make sure they're the best experiences every single day.
Yeah. And you put it so beautifully, and that's that's what I preach every day. The gratitude mindset is, who cares if the glass is half empty or half full? Just be grateful there's something in it. And I think now has never been a greater time to just sit in the moment and try and exactly be present. And there's Ryan Holiday, the modern day stoic, who is amazing, who just stillness is the key. We can't chase the future, and there's no point dwelling on the past. Now is the only time that we can live. So I guess that begs the question is, aside from that, are there things that we could be doing better right now when it comes to helping people who are going through this? Are there certain stages, like I'm not naive to think it's that easy as a step 1, 2, 3, but I'm sure that you've got tools that help make this process easier for people.
Yeah. And I bring it back, and I keep bringing it back to self, is the very self-care and self-awareness component is actually, lays the very foundation to help other people, okay? So when we're starting to look for things, or, which can be a bit harder because we're so physically restricted in that, But listening for social media activity from a lot of people and changing how that looks. Um, listening for conversation cues and what people are talking about, what they normally wouldn't talk about. And from just a change in those sort of languages and the very checking conversation. The very simple thing of checking in with people and making that a normal behaviour allows people that space that they go, okay, well, if I am battling a little bit, I know who I can turn to, or I've triggered that response already in that person by just checking in with them. And it might be a text message, it might be a phone call, it might be some FaceTime, which we're all loving at the moment. Allowing that and getting away from a FaceTime and actually getting away from the phone call and actually FaceTiming people because you need to see face, to have those conversations because when you're on a normal phone call, you can bluff your way through, and you don't have to sort of say what you don't want to say but when you're physically seeing someone's face, there's no hiding. I think about checking in with your crew and acknowledging to your crew, acknowledging to your people that they're in your tribe, they're in your crew, they're in your world, and you need them, and we all need each other, and making sure that it is, as I said, a consistent check-in process. There's, my crew that I have that I've acknowledged to and I regularly check in with, my wife, my mum, my sister, one of my best mates, Benny, Jimmy from work, and one of my great mates, Matt Picioane. I check in regularly with them, and it's simple of, how you going? What happened today? Those sorts of things, and if people are giving short answers back, that something might be up. Okay, so then you allow yourself to dig a little bit deeper. But for the very, so said, to be able to support someone else, you need to be able to support yourself and make sure that it's working here because it takes just as much courage to reach into somebody as it does to reach for that person to reach out.
And there's a really powerful YouTube video that's going to be released on National Suicide Day on the 10th of September called I Made This For You. And I think it takes it that next step further, and I'll play it into the group and I'll share it with you because it is really powerful when it comes to that time when you get to that critical point where people aren't responding, they are closing themselves off to society, to their loved ones, to their friends. When it gets to that point where people are not wanting to be here anymore, which is the really confronting part where you feel helpless when people aren't responding to your level of communication and what you do at that point. I mean, there's certainly professionals that are more equipped to deal with this, but as you said, just that constantly investing in people, I guess, is what I'm taking from you. Is it's not just every now and again, it's all the time, making people feel like even if you're not responding, keep investing in them and keep touching base with them.
Yeah, keep in there. You got to invest every single day because our people are our product of life. And we keep saying about the fact that your community is a reflection of you, and you're a reflection of your community. Being able to sort of normalize these behaviours around it and consistently check in, because if you consistently check in and it becomes a normal behaviour around it, you automatically open the door to those conversations that need to be had. Once we make an event out of these things, maybe I should ring that person every 3 months. If you make an event out of it, you can't have that ability to build a rapport into making that space happen for that person.
Yeah.
So allowing that to make it work. So if you make an event, no one will turn up. But if you make it an everyday thing or every second day thing, that it's okay, because it comes back to the fact of the difference between mental illness and mental health challenges. We all deal with different types of mental health challenges every single day.
Yeah.
But
it is that.
Back to recognize it.
Yeah. And the way that you talk, it's almost like a holistic approach. It's about communication, it's about self, it's about others. There's so many things that come together with this, and there is certainly no easy solution, and nor should there be. Things that are hard are worth time and effort and investment. So, but you run this with courses all the time. The Love Me, Love You. I've discussed with you. There's mental health first aid, and there's also a particular course that you run that I think would be so valuable to so many people. And I know that you'd you've prepared. There's a few slides that you wanted to show.
Yeah. So we at Love Me Love You, we have a massive range of education and training and peer-to-peer support programs that we deliver, and we deliver them, as I said, all over the country now because we can virtually, right? There's mental health first aid, which we do also offer, and which is a 12 to 14-hour course, but then we have what we call Welfare Warrior, okay? And these are just a more accessible, community-based peer-to-peer support training program. And it's just about these things that we're very talking about now is recognizing how to have those conversations, what are the harmful coping strategies, how am I bringing it back to my self-care, and then how do I make sure that I'm a gateway provider in having those conversations and the support that that person needs to have. And and it works. We're about to deliver. We've got to deliver about 350 people, I think, in the next 3 months that'll go through that program. Education programs, we'll touch base in with that over the next six months. There'll probably be about 15 to 20,000 that'll go through that. But everything that we do is creating a more holistic approach, as we talked about. It's creating a more holistic approach to yourself and your community. And the more we can make it more holistic in how we're going about it. And as I said, we normalize the behavior around it, and it's just everyday things. It's not just mental health is not just for the people that have money, positive mental health, because one of my mentors tells me that we're all playing the same game in this life. Okay, we're just playing with different modes on different levels, and you've got to work that for you, because you can only control what's here and what you're doing every single day. You can't control what's on the outside world, and a lot of the things that actually have negative impact on our life are those uncontrollables that we keep talking about. But it's laying the very foundations of our self-care and investment of who we are. But as I said, creating a diverse, holistic approach is the way forward. I'm going to share some screens around certain things that we've done. For myself, and I've already talked about it a little bit, but I just want to touch base on them again. Here we go, and let's see if this works. Cool, perfect. All right, so I touched on it before, and the picture that I have up here, and I want to trace it back, and I said, bring it always back to the connection of. We talk about from the darkest of places, we find the brightest of lights, and it's allowing that light to shine on your path moving forward, and I believe that every single day in everything that we do. For me, this is a place that's my story nearly finished, nearly ended, but it's also where my story really, really started, and it was a roof that I found myself on back in 2011, contemplating the idea of ending my life and walking away from this world. So it's making sure that works. And I say on here, it should have been the end, but it was actually at the start. And those feelings that are listed there: anxiety, depression, substances, disconnection, anger, hatred, embarrassed, hurt, the ideas of suicide. That was my everyday for about 17, 18 years. But love and family and dreams is what life's all about, and making it work. We talk about the fact of going through that and understanding, as I said before, around the awareness. The self-awareness lays the very foundation that is your life, okay? Because I'm here, I need to know what works here for me, and allowing that to be a part of it. We talk about, as you said before, around burnout, sort of stuff that we talk about, is that not all is as it may seem. You've got to be able to focus on you and make it work for you. And understand the responses that you're having, both emotionally and physically, to make it work. And then we break it up with that. There's what we have here is a matrix, and what we do here with this is that it's what we believe it's a really good reflection exercise. Okay, to understand where you are on the matrix. Okay, versus your well-being versus your mental health, because there is a difference. And it works from a 0 to 10. Range, and understanding the roller coaster that is your life and how you're investing in it and the importance that it plays. And it's good to reflect on it over a journey to say, this is where I've been, but this is where I want to go. And then breaking it up through your, the different domains that are a part of your life. Okay, and need to make that work, because as I said, the holistic approach that is the very individual that's looking back in the mirror needs that approach, because, say something is not going so well in one area, and then you've invested all your energy into that area and you're like, I'm done here. What have I got left? Because there's always other things that we can do. And you said, putting those practices in play is super important. And then people always ask about, we talk about that thing about we were talking about before around looking. We're all looking for changes, always looking. What am I looking for? But this is where I come in, okay? And I want you to be able to understand this. And it's about what we listen for as well. And more importantly, is what we listen for. Because you say, I can't see the mental health cast that you put on your head, because that's just not how it's going to work, okay? And it's looking for these very sort of conversation cues or things that people are saying, and listening out for them, and not just thinking, it's something that someone said. Okay, actually, you heard it, make note of it, put ownership back onto that person and say, I noticed or I heard that you said this. What do you mean by that? Having that very conversation with somebody, what do you mean by that? Because it puts ownership back onto the person. We talk about life as it is, that you need to take ownership over everything that you're doing. Because if you can't do it, how are you going to do it for somebody else? So to listen out for these sorts of things, and is really, really important. We talk about an acknowledgement. So when we're talking about our programs, everything's about awareness, acknowledgement, and action. I'm aware of what's going on. I need to acknowledge what I'm doing with it, or what I'm going to do with it. Then I need to action it. And we talk about the same thing with in the allied health world. Is that you need to be aware of what it is. I need to work my plan moving forward, and then I've got to do it. Because if you don't, you're going to be back. That's why people relapse or re-injure, or get back into the deep dark world that they live in, because you're not actioning it moving forward. So it's a continually evolving process. And then we talk about acknowledgement. Acknowledging your behaviours and your relationships. And relationships. Everyone keeps talking about the importance of those relationships that we have in our life, the goods and the bads. Understanding the meaning and the purpose of those relationships, and understand why they're a part of your life. Not every relationship or experience that we have in our life is amazing. We have some real crap ones, and people that come into our life that are part of it. But acknowledging it to yourself and to those people of why they're coming to your life is really important. Then it's really important with here, the risk factors. These are the risk factors that happen in terms of impacting one's mental health. Okay, the biological, psychological, and environmental parts of our world. Breaking it up and understanding why. Okay, and then we talk about this is the causes. So not treating the effect, but this is some of the causes that are happening in people's lives that are impacting their mental health, and it's being able to understand why that's happened to me. Why is those experiences, even from the deepest and most crap experiences I've had in my life, why did that happen to me? And I always try to bring it back. There's always a way forward. There's always an ability to make sure there's a positive to come out of it. And if a positive from a loss or a trauma or emotional attachment is the fact that if I grow with it and I understand it, it's going to make me stronger. It's got to make me stronger. Because if I keep playing the victim into those experiences and those risk factors that I got here, I'm not going to move forward. And what's the point? So if I have the excuses, negative. If I find the reason, let's move forward. Okay. And then we talk about these. I have these 5 questions, and I've been dealing with a mentor of mine. I have many mentors. And the conversation that I have with you, I appreciate all the relationships and conversations that we've had over this period of time. And and let's bring it back to this. I believe, the simplest practices. What made me happy today? Who did I make happy today? What did I learn today? Who am I grateful for today? And what will I be grateful for tomorrow? Bring it back to some love. Bring it back to some positive things that are going on in our life, because life's amazing. Even when we're going through the crappiest of periods in our life, there's so many things to look forward to and be a part of. And I will leave it here on this one, Jade. As I said, the action, embrace, engage, empower. And you got to do that in every experience, in every single day. And talk about with my life, and you do a lot of it around understanding the mindset component of our world. And I live by this quote here, And it is the greatest act of courage is to be and to own all of who you are, without apology, without excuses, without masks to cover the truth of who you are. And for me, that, as I said, that means taking ownership. Because with, if I put my best foot forward for me, I don't have to apologise for my behaviour or my outcomes. I don't have to excuse my behaviour or outcomes, and I don't have to wear a mask. Metaphorically, I had to wear a mask the last 6 months, but metaphorically, I had to wear a mask. I was wearing a mask for a long time in my life. So being able just to unmask yourself and make sure that it's working for you is where we're going. So that's what we do, and that's how we go about it. And all our programs and training and support is based around that sort of framework of working on. You talked about the impact before, Jade, about the COVID period, and Black Dog have just done a little research project, and released these stats. And thanks to Black Dog for doing that. And a study of over 6,000 Australians discovered that the 78% reported that their mental health had worsened since the outbreak, which we know, and that's true. But they're still looking on the other side. There's 22% that don't believe it's had so let's look at the positive as well. 50% are feeling more lonely, 100%, because even before COVID period, there was talk around, research going around, that loneliness in itself was going to be the number one impact of someone's decision or ability around suicide. Okay, which is scary as. And that's what we're dealing with, really right now. 80% are feeling uncertain about the future because we don't know what tomorrow looks like, let alone, 3 months' time. But, it's bringing it back to what's going on right now. What can I do right now? Think about what's going to move forward. 50% are more worried about their financial situation. 100%. As I said, loss of jobs, change of jobs, reduced hours. It's having an impact through people, because cash flow is king, isn't it? Cash flow is king as well, through business and through personal. But it's about adapting to that situation as well. And you've got the beautiful holiday to look forward to, Jane, and that will happen. But in time, that'll be a much bigger holiday, a much better holiday.
Double the size.
Okay.
Double the size holiday.
Double the size. And then 50%, as I said before as well, is that 50% reported excessive alcohol use and physical inactivity. I want to touch on the physical inactivity part. Is that physical inactivity, we're all still allowed to get out for an hour a day. We're still allowed to do that. And I know you've taken on this September, and then in the mornings you have your walking meetings. You're actually getting out and you're pumping through your 10,000 steps a day. You've still got opportunity to do it. If you want an excuse not to do it, go nuts. It's you. But genuinely, you need to make sure you find that reason why you should be doing it. And then bring it back through your allied health. The practitioners is, looking at the fact that how can you help? This is how you can help. This is how you can help your every day, through your business, through where you are. And it's opening those conversations, check in with your crew, invest in yourself, give yourself permission to feel. Because we're not invincible, Jade. We're not invincible to life's challenges, and we've found. Connect with your community as much as you can, and trust your judgment. Sometimes you really just need to trust your guts, and allow yourself to be a part of it. So, there you go.
Look, and it's such a nice reflection to kind of bring it all together, that there are strategies in place. There is a way of changing your mindset and focusing on things that we have right now, and that things will get better. You said, multiple times, we are in this together. People aren't alone, and we probably need to show that more and share that more. And also, more than anything, what I'm hearing is accountability. Often I think when you get to that place, you want to blame somebody else. I'm not happy because I don't have Saturdays off. I don't have work-life balance, and therefore I'm getting burnt out. It's really easy to blame work or to blame a relationship for why you feel bad. But ultimately, we're the only people that can change. And if you don't change something, you get more of what you've already got. And rather than blame somebody else, I mean, potentially we can assume the responsibility for the things that we can change, and we can change our reaction to things, because the way that we react is the way that we're going to be remembered. So I think that, you know, there are so many tools and things that we can do, and even just those last 10 minutes of slides alone, people can hopefully come back to and hopefully share this with their teams, with their loved ones. And then, you know, more than that, if they want to extend on more than that, I'd love to be able to share the links to your warrior course.
Yep.
And I know that there's a huge amount of allied health professionals. The Love Me Love You is a great foundation. It's a great non-for-profit organisation that GrowthRx certainly support. And even just with my relationships with yourself, you can hear the passion, you can hear your love for what you do, and that fuels us to do better and be better every day. So you've got so many events coming up. I'd love to know how allied health professionals can get more involved.
Yeah, definitely. It is, through the welfare warrior training, as I said, is a great place to start. You know, for yourselves and the team around you, not just in business but in community. We do have two big events that we do every year. One's called March with Me, which is a walk that we do, and I'll touch base on how that March with Me event started. Is that for me, I nearly lost my leg 2 months before I had attempted suicide in 2011 from a infection and complications from a surgery that I had in my knee. And you know, that was traveling towards my heart. But you know, getting back into walking again became my medication in terms of that world. And after attempting suicide, and you know, that then became the brainchild of this event, because I launched the foundation with a walk and run from Sydney to Melbourne, which is back in 2014. So it's coming up sort of 6.5 years since I did that. And, you know, taking that experience on that journey to what it is now. That, you know, last year we had over 1,000 people participating in a one-day walk. You know, raising money and awareness, but the genuine connections that it had for people. It was an amazing experience and something that we do. We couldn't do it this year because of COVID, clearly, but we're looking forward to that next year. In 2 months' time, we've actually got a really exciting event coming up called Ride With Me. So it's just a cycling version. And it is a choose your own adventure virtual ride. So people from, you know, we've got people in Korea that have registered and being a part of this event. So it's amazing. So, you know, my son, Alexander, he's registered and has committed to riding 5 kilometres non-stop to be a part of it. You know, which is, you know, I love it. And you know, he's out doing me on the fundraising component of that as well. He's like raised $450 already or something. So he's taking pride of place at the house at the moment. So, you know, but through our events, you know, which consistently happen, you know, there's more community events that we'll be sort of pushing through. That, you know, there'll be marches and rides going all over the country over the next sort of, you know, period of time. So when we're allowed to, and getting it back.
And when we can do them again, look, there's a lot of practitioners, I think, with the walk, you know, even just those practitioners at the end that can help with diagnosis, injury management, all those sorts of things. So it'd be great to get more volunteers on board. And look, I could talk to you about this all day. As I said before, your passion is so inspiring. And I think what you've done in such a short amount of time, there is absolutely no doubt that you have impacted and helped so many people through really, really difficult times. Collectively, you as the founder, but the team that is behind you, the board of the directors, and the amazing volunteers that you have who show up to all these events and behind the scenes all the time. I think there's a wealth of people who are making this beautiful and what it is. So thank you for your constant passion and for continuing to keep this going. It's been an honor talking to you. Thank you so much for your sharing your story with us today, and just opening up the lines of communication discussion in what is such an important conversation that we all need to have. So thank you so much.
Appreciate it, Jade, and you know, thanks to the GRX community. It's you know, I love seeing all the posts and everything that's going on, and the genuine community feeling that it's created. And as I said at the very start, I'm very honoured to be sharing the stage with you. We're going to call you the Michelle Obama of the allied health world. It's you know, a great leader in this space. So I do appreciate all the work that you do.
Thank you very much. I'll take that. What a great compliment. Thank you. And we'll catch up with you another time.